Alright, here we are. This is quite the patch from what I've heard, but I haven't actually looked at it so far. My name is Sino, and I will be going over the new patch notes that were released today on April 1st, 2017. This is the Grim Dawn v4.1.1.7 preview. Should be good, I think. So, new updates are always an exciting time around here, so we thought we'd give you a glimpse into the latest coming to you in the near future. Please note that these patch notes are still a work in progress and may change prior to the release of the update, so stuff subject to change. Enjoy. v4.1.1.7 Major new features. New dialogue options have been added for all major bosses, allowing you to talk about their troubled pasts, explore the traumatic events and feelings that led them to become bosses, potentially leading to a non-violent resolution. I've actually been hoping that this would be implemented for a while now, given that we could talk to Cronley, and we have the option to choose something like, can't we end this peacefully, and that doesn't go anywhere. So it's nice to, introduce a little bit of role-playing elements to maybe talk through bosses and get them to kind of understand where we're coming from. I think this is a good change. The bridge leading south out of Devil's Crossing can now be restored, granting you access to a mysterious mirror image of the original Grim Dawn world, where all enemies have grown sinister goatees. I have no idea what to think of that. It hasn't been playtested, like, I have no idea what's in there, or how balanced it is, so remains to be seen. I would expect there's a lot of bugs that come with that, that they're kind of just throwing out this content out into the blue. It's kind of unlike Crate, but I'm interested to see how it pans out. Upon character creation, you can now select whether your character has been possessed by an ethereal, or if it was really all just a bad dream. I like this as well. It's more of those role-playing elements that this first change was adding. So having these sorts of things, it's a nice addition to the ARPG genre. Alright, Crucible. Waves 151 to 500 have been added, unlocked by defeating the Lokar, in an intense dialogue exchange. I assume he'll throw a lot of insults at you, but you just gotta shrug him off. Like, that's the strat, that's the meta. Just man up, get Stone Skin. Imagine Stone Skin Girdle is really, really good in this fight. Tributes can now be spent to purchase additional character slots. Thank goodness. I've been asking for this for a long time. Fixed a bug where Wave 150 did not consistently spawn 5 Iron Maidens. Also a good change. This was a little annoying that, I always thought that Wave 150 was, a little too easy. So spawning those 5 Iron Maidens, as it was supposed to do, is a welcome addition to the game. Mod tools. Modding tools can now support modding tools mods, so you can modify the tools to modify the game however you like, offering unparalleled customization. Amazing change. People have been asking for this for a long time. I've been asking for this for a long time. This is a fantastic change. We'll be seeing a lot of modding tools mods in the future, I suspect. Probably on the forums. They should maybe make a separate forum section for this, actually. Art. Updated all skill effects with extra lens flares. I'm for it, but I don't know how that will affect low-end systems. If there's more lens flares, then there's more stuff going on. So low-end systems may be subject to a little more lag, but with every update there's optimizations as well, so I would assume they wouldn't just toss this in without some of those optimizations behind the scenes. Fixed an issue where some armor had colors other than Grim Grey, Grim Brown, or Grim Black. Nice. I'm not really sure what would have been causing this issue, but Grim Dawn was really just not grim enough, and now it will be. To fit the dark theme of Grim Dawn better, it now rains perpetually in the middle of the night in all parts of the game, including caves. I feel like it already did that. I'm pretty sure it would rain in caves already. I guess in the middle of the night being the change. Where am I? Okay. Animation. Increased monster ragdolling by 1000%. Nice, nice. I can't imagine anyone who wouldn't be excited about that change. Game. Gazer Man now stares at you at all times as you play, but always just off camera. I assume that's a bug fix. I mean, I assume this is how it was intended to work the whole time. Nemesis monsters will now pursue your character into the main menu. A good change. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't implemented to begin with, frankly. But yeah, this makes sense. The avatar of Mog now summons clones of John Bourbon. I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, it seems balanced, but it is kind of a spoiler if you haven't done the John Bourbon quest and you just kind of like click through the dialogue options for Mog and then suddenly John Bourbon appears. That's kind of a spoiler. I don't know. Maybe they should make it so that you first have to do the secret quest and then the avatar of Mog gets this upgrade or whatever. As it is, I mean, lore-wise, kind of makes sense. He's this super powerful, godlike being, so of course he could summon John Bourbon to do his bidding. I don't know how to feel about this. It's probably balanced, though. Constitution now actively drains while the character moves, attacks, or speaks to NPCs. If it reaches 0, the character starves to death. Gazer Man is now a god tier item. Gazer Man might actually be hardcore viable. Untouched meals now have a random chance to belong to one of the NPC factions, and eating it will reduce your standing with that faction. I wonder if that includes enemy factions, or if NPC is only allied factions. If it includes enemy factions, that could be a good way to, farm up some rep. Kind of like a gamble, because you'll reduce your rep with enemy factions, which is nice, or you'll reduce allied rep, which not so hot. Increased consequences from choice and consequence quests by 22.3%. Like it. There was already a lot of choice, but there wasn't really a lot of consequence, so increasing the consequence, good change. I'm in favor of it. Starting a character in hardcore mode now requires the player to defeat the previous hardcore characters. There can only be one. It's an interesting change. I saw a couple of suggestions for this on the forums. I didn't really comment on it because A, I don't play hardcore, and B, I don't really know the implications this would have on the hardcore scene, but if Crate decided to go along with it, I assume it's a fine addition to the game. Cronley's Outlaws now taunt the player 50% more frequently. Hey, you. A good change. It really fits, the Cronley's theme. It's a nice buff, I think, to the generic Cronley's enemies. Skeleton keys can now open any door so long as the key fits inside the lock. That's an interesting change. I mean, it makes sense, right, given the skeleton key nature of the skeleton key. I wonder how this could be abused. I don't know, there's probably some really solid implications of this. It may even come into play for speedrunning, I'm not sure. Itemization. Two-handed weapons can now use up to 3 components. I don't think this is a good idea. Seems pretty imbalanced, and there's really no need for it. I don't know. I mean, has anyone asked for more than 1 component in a two-handed weapon? It doesn't seem like... I don't see any reason for this to be implemented. Components can no longer be applied to weapons. Interesting, in conjunction with this, these two should really shift up the metagame, I think. Ancient Huts, Blood of Tithon, and Tainted Brain Matter can no longer drop and are instead crafted from Manticore Eyes. Nice. Nice, this really elongates the present content. which I think is a good idea. Chipped claws are now extra chipped, require 10 partial components to assemble. Again, elongating content, which is always nice. My only concern with this is that it's more buttons to push, which feels a little more tedious. I don't know. I don't necessarily like the idea of partial components to begin with, but I do like elongating content by needlessly farming for things more. So, you know, it has its ups and downs. Legendary items have been rebalanced to provide more spirit and cunning rather than the comparably uninteresting attributes such as offensive ability, resist reduction, and health. I don't know. I don't think this would have a major change on metagame. I mean, all of those stats don't really matter, so... I mean, if it's not light radius and it's not constitution, who cares? Monster infrequents seem to be dropping a little too often. Rather than reducing their drop rates, we have simply renamed them to monster frequents. Huh. Interesting. I don't know what to think of that. I guess we'll see how it pans out in the long run. Mythical Relics have been removed from the game in order to maintain their mythical status. So, was this like legacy items? Because that makes sense. Or is it not legacy items and it's just kind of something you can talk about? You know, what once was. Either way, seems like a good change to me. Class and skills. Due to significant class changes, players must now go through a 6-hour training session with Sadina the Spirit Guide before they can select their first skill point. I think this is an amazing change. This should really cut down on forum posts of players asking for help, of trying to figure out like how to invest points into skills, mastery investment, that sort of thing. And by cutting down on those posts, in turn the forum cleans up a lot and it just looks a lot nicer to new players, if everyone just kind of understands everything. So I think this is an amazing change. Good idea. I love it. Celestial Power activation chance now scales with the monetary donations you made to the respective celestial being. I have to read this again. Okay. I like it. It's another end game incentive to farm up a bunch of iron and then just dump it all into some celestial being's coffers. I like it. Devotion shrines are now gluten-free. Finally! Having this option, people have been complaining about this for a long time, and it's nice to finally see this implemented. Soldier. Cadence % weapon damage has been increased to 10,000? Yes, 10,000, but now requires 100 charges to trigger. I'm going to do some math real quick. Well, no, wait, I can do that math in my head. So that's 20,000 over... Okay, no, I actually need a calculator for this. 20,000 over 101 hits. Alright, so that's an average of 198% weapon damage. So it's kind of... It's a nerf to later ranks of Cadence, but it's a buff to earlier ranks of Cadence, which I think needed to happen. So, you know what, I like this change. This seems like a solid change. Increase the force applied by Force Wave. I assume that's in conjunction with the aforementioned Ragdoll change up above, which is nice. Counter-Strike now toggles in FPS mode. You must have a ranged weapon equipped. Interesting. I knew they were working on a first-person shooter version of Grim Dawn for a while now. It's nice that, you know, this is how it's implemented, because Counter-Strike didn't really have a use before. It kind of sucked. But now we can go with Counter-Strike and play that first-person shooter of Grim Dawn. I like it. Stars of Battle now increases ruggedness by 50%. that should translate well. It was already a pretty good skill. Wait, which one? Stars of Battle. Yeah. So it was already a pretty good skill, and now it's just even better. It makes you 50% more rugged. I don't think there's anything to complain about here. And it, lore-wise, it makes sense. Demolitionist. Due to balance concerns, the Demolitionist Mastery has been removed. Any characters currently using the Demolitionist Mastery will be compensated, how much is this? 1 million iron bits. That's not really a whole lot for the loss of skills. I think this is... it feels like a bad change. It's like we're losing a good friend, right? But when you think about it, Demolitionist has always either been really overpowered or really underwhelming. So just getting rid of it, I think it's the wise choice. And this isn't a huge compensation if you were using Demolitionist, but it's compensation enough. So yeah, I think this should happen. It's probably best for the game, shall we say. Cultist. Hellhounds now scale with the player's feelings. I don't see why they didn't before. Summon Familiar now destroys walls with its basic attack. Very interesting. I wonder how this will play into speedrunning as well, whether speedrunners will now be inclined to take Summon Familiar rather than Devouring Swarm. That could shift up that metagame a lot. Doombolt now informs your target of the exact moment they die. That's nice. How thoughtful. Possession now disables control of your character until it expires. So are we going back to the old possession that lasted, what, 18 seconds? If so, that's pretty cool. It's nice. I wonder what ramifications this would have on retaliation builds that already kind of just AFK, because now possession just lets you AFK but actually do stuff without you doing stuff. So that could be an interesting addition to Grindon's customization. Nightblade, Phantasmal Blades now pass through ghosts. Makes sense. Pneumatic Breath? Pneumatic Burst must now be recast regularly to prevent suffocation. Also makes sense. The Shadow Strike cooldown has been removed. Wow, but the ability now only functions when standing in a shadow. Huh. Also, yeah, it makes sense. In light of... where was it? In light of this, I think this might be a buff. Because there would be a lot more shadow now, so you can still cast it a lot, and it no longer has a cooldown, so overall should be a buff to the skill. Anatomy of Murder now requires a medical degree. Also makes sense. It didn't really make sense before to get, damage against humans for free if you didn't really understand how humans worked. Now, you require a medical degree before you can level this skill. Eighth of 8 now requires 5 episodes to charge up. Makes sense. You can't just go Super Saiyan for free. Devastation now requires a staff to cast. Is that in addition to a focus, or forgetting about a focus and requiring a staff? Because since there's no staffs in the game, if you need a staff in order to use it, I think this was a lot more balanced, because Devastation was too overpowered. OFF now deals bonus damage to nearby plants. It makes sense, I guess, if they're trying to make the game feel more grim, because having all of this plant life around everywhere was kind of just making everything too happy, too lively. But now if, little changes like this contributing to ending plant life, really make the game feel more grim, so I think that's a good change. Reckless Power now has a 25% chance to explode your character instantly. Nice. Going back to the old versions of Reckless Power. I like it. Increased Devouring Swarm this is for Shaman. Increase Devouring Swarm Hunger by 25%. Nice. I assume that means it's 25% more effective overall, as the swarm attacks targets 25% more frequently because they're more hungry. Unless you get one of those lazy casts where the swarm just decides not to do anything despite their hunger. Torment now also cascades to the primary target, the player, and any nearby metal objects. Interesting. Shouldn't really... I mean, it basically just makes every enemy reflective, right? Which, you know, everyone has been asking for. So, in this skill, we get it, which is nice. I wonder what the ramifications of this will be. If there will be, like, anything we can power up in-game via Torment. Could be cool. Wind Devil... Okay, Wind Devil can now only be cast in low air pressure environments, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. And since it's going to be a lot more stormy, what with the change up above, you know, you should still be able to use it mostly everywhere. But yeah, it makes sense that you can only use it in low air pressure places. Mard's Pact now requires Mard's permission to activate. Also makes sense. Probably goes into this, which, you know, you have to donate some amount of money to Madragon before you can actually make a pact with him, which, you know, it really should have been that way to begin with. And Waste of Souls, that about feels like, you know, the prevailing idea for this patch, which I think is nice. So all in all, I think these changes are a really good addition to the game. There's not really anything to complain about here, really. And I'm looking forward to playing around with this bug fix. And yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, or if you have any questions or comments, let me know on YouTube in the comment section. I'm streaming this right now, but I will upload this onto YouTube. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the new patch whenever it releases. I know I will.